Okay, welcome back. So, as promised, we have a second generation Sheaffer Vac-Fill, and I went ahead and got everything kind of pre-done because, of course, these can be a bit of a bear. So what I've done so far, and you can go back to the other one, so I haven't really deviated from what I said with the other pen, is I had this soaking pretty much for about a week, I think 8 days. I finally got it unstuck. Was it yesterday or today? I think actually this morning I got it unstuck, and so I was very happy about that. But as you can maybe see, there's this whitish residue on the I'll call it the section, but this collar, feed, and nib. So this unit. So there was this, I think, this gummy stuff. So this one was really well adhered. So I would come at it with some heat with my hair dryer. You know, do it a few times, give it a few twists, and if it wasn't coming, I wasn't going to force it. But when it finally came, it really felt gummy. So this one was a slow process. So again, just to reiterate, whenever you're doing these Triumph nibs that come with this kind of collared section, very slow, very careful. Water's your friend, a little bit of heat, and just grip carefully and twist. So that was the hard part. So once that came out, I was able to then take off this assembly, which is the bar, this little plastic foot thing, which don't lose it. And I just had to apply a little bit of a heat, and it came right off. And of course, that's what keeps this little collar on. I'm going to do that so it doesn't go away. And of course, to get this little collar out of the knob, I used my pen tooling tools, which you can, again, I'll show right here. And I think it was just the small one. Used a little bit of heat, stuck it in there, and lefty-loosey got it right out. So yeah, you can see my other video, the other Sheaffer Vac-Fill, just to kind of get an idea of what I did. So I'm not going to do super detailed about taking it apart because there's the other video, and when we get it back together, you'll kind of see everything in reverse, so it'll kind of make sense. But everything came out really well. I'm happy with the, I'll call it the feed section, whatever you want to call it. This guy looks like he's going to have some nice transparency. He's pretty yellow, and this little thing also comes off, just so you're aware of that. This is where the cap threads on too, and it has a little kind of textured area that kind of keeps it from slipping, so that's kind of slip on, slip off, which is nice. The barrel is just going to be the barrel. That's easy. And the last bit, which I saved for the camera just because, is you got the little, oh dang it, what am I thinking of? Just that, I'll call it the tip until I can think of the word. But there's the remnant of the little, call it the diaphragm or the plunger, and this little base is rotating, but it's held in there. It's got a little lip on the bar that it's sitting against. And so I will go ahead and put this back on because I don't need it disappearing on me. And again, maybe a little bit of heat here. Use your fingers. Try not to use pliers or anything that's going to possibly crush this little thing. Very delicate piece. I've done it once and I learned my lesson. And that is it. So let me show you what we're really going to get into, because a lot of this is just going to be cleaning. I'm going to, let's see, use my polishes just like I usually do. We'll clean up the cap with some metal polishes, and some of this I'm not sure is, you know, if it's just some discoloration, oxidation from the underlying metals, because there is some rust here, so that means it's, you know, something other than gold underneath. So we'll see what cleans up. There are a couple dimples up in the top of this cap, but you know, if I have something, I can maybe see if I can soften them out, but otherwise might just have a couple dimples up top. But otherwise the cap looks good, so polish that guy. We'll do my usual kind of micro mesh and polishes on the barrel. Just polishes on the knob, no micro mesh. I don't want to take out any of the gripping grooves. And for this, I will take some Q-tips and take some of the Simichrome or the plastic polishes, probably wind up doing all of them, and just really clean out the inside. And I'll do all that cleaning, all that prep work before we get to this last bit. And let me show you what we'll be doing. Let's see if I can get an angle and get there. So if you stare down at the bottom, see if it shows anything, but it should be just black. So that's a casing. That is the packing unit. That is this dark area right here, and it has a seal up at the very top containing all the packing material inside. We'll see if we can show it once we get this out. But what we're going to do is I'm going to wind up taking a drill bit that's pretty much the size of this, slide it down in there, and you can do it one of two ways. You can either do it by hand, go slowly but surely, or if you've done this and you feel comfortable, you can put it on your drill, low power drill. Don't go over drilling this thing, but you can kind of feel once it gets past that initial cap on the inside, and that will get you into the packing unit. So I might just do it by hand, just to take it slow and easy, just to show you guys how it's done, and then we'll unpack it, and then we'll show you how everything gets repacked and resealed. And that's really the trick with this one. And if you want to have an online resource, it'll of course be in the links below, but it's the Nishimura method. That's how I learned it. I think that's how a lot of people know it, and it'll be a good place to start. So I'll go and get everything cleaned up. We'll come back, take a gander, and we'll start getting into this packing unit. So we'll try to make this video a little bit short and sweet, but I'll see you when I get back. Okay, we're back. I got everything cleaned up. I'll just do a quick show. I mean, haven't done the wax or anything, but the barrel came out pretty well. The cap actually looks really nice. I think there are a couple little smaller dents, but overall everything that was there cleaned up. I think that was rust, probably just coming from the underside of the clip. So everything cleaned up. We're just still left with a couple little dents on top, and I'll see if I can do anything about that. But setting it all aside, let's go ahead and focus on the real reason we're here. Zoom in. So again, like I showed you, we have down the bottom of the barrel, there is a black cap to this black packing unit area. And so what I have over here is, there you go, a set of drill bits. And I'll zoom back out. And I fiddled around. I never know which number I use, but you just kind of find the one that fits, and the largest one that fits is a 1/4 inch. So this will go in here. It can seat down at the bottom. You can actually feel the tip of it go into the kind of hole. It just kind of like seats itself. And if you don't want to be super brash, I mean, this is going to dig, so don't use old bits. Make sure you have a nice cutting edge on the tip. You can either do it by hand, something to grip with, and do it by hand and just kind of lightly let it skim over the top. And that is difficult because it's going to bite in and you'll be really trying to twist it. Or you can grab a set of pliers. I have these little vice grips. I may have to readjust it actually to get yourself a good grip. Give yourself a little bit of torque. But this is also a way you can do it, and that's good. I can twist it, and my hands are a little bit sweaty now. It's a little warmer in my place today. But you'll slowly start getting little bits of that plastic cover off, and you are meant to destroy this. Not destroy it, but destroy the little cap. And you can see little, maybe if it comes out there, oh, it fell, but hopefully you heard that. But you are getting little bits of plastic out. So this is the slow and steady method, and you just work on it however long it takes. No big deal. But after you've done this a few times and you kind of get a sense of it, the other thing you can do, and I probably will wind up doing this, let's zoom out. Grab yourself a little drill. I mean, this guy's not very powerful. I can't even think of how many volts he is. He's not that many, but he doesn't have a high torque. He's not going to overdo much of anything. So I'm going to go ahead and just see if I can do a quick press into it and just kind of show you what I'm doing. And I'll get that chucked in. It goes in, goes forward, and really use that to kind of hold it. and it wants to twist. So you're kind of doing the same thing. You're trying to hold it and let it get in there without, yeah, see, a couple things fell out, without letting it punch all the way through. And it's still going to be a difficult grip thing. So if you had some good grippers, and I might actually go grab my drawer liners, but if you start with light pressure and then slowly push it down, you'll start to get a little bit more bite out of it. And I'm starting to get several little pieces out. So don't go fast. Just let it do the work it's going to do. And it'll come out. So let me finish this up off screen, and I'll come back and show you the final product. And that was it. And let me just tell you the next thing I did, or the better way that I can describe it now that I just took it off camera. So I really just kind of let the weight of the drill kind of start to get it so it wouldn't start catching. Very light. Slip itself down, and it kind of took chunks out. And then it got to a point, it wasn't like a big pop or anything. Just like, you don't know that, well, I don't think I've had one where it's like, boom, I popped through and like I just felt it. But what happened was it felt like it was kind of binding, and then it had gotten into the packing material. So I just had to turn it over. I just basically blew it out. But you could also use your, if you had a slim dental pick, not this one, or other little tool, you can get in there and just kind of ream it out and pick out the pack material, which looks like this. So we have the destroyed cap. We have several little layers of wax impregnated cotton. They come out nicely, usually like that. I guess if you really got into it, it could rip it up and pull it out. And then there's also this little bottom washer piece at the very bottom. So you have a few things that'll come out, and then just take a little something, ream it out, see if there's anything that you're gonna get. And I'll take this back one more time and just kind of rinse out the inside, make sure there's no extra little junk in there. We'll come back and I'll show you how we replace the packing unit. Okay, so it's cleaned out. All I did was use a Q-tip. I dipped it in my water ammonia solution, just kind of washed it out down here, rinsed it, dried it with another Q-tip. So for this project, I think Q-tips are going to be your friend, getting into all these little things to make sure they get cleaned out. So what am I going to do? I'm going to take, and I already have them pulled out, these guys. I think I showed these with the others. Just a little polystyrene ring. I think it's polystyrene, but it melts with acetone. And then the little rubber washer that basically are perfectly sized for these Sheaffer Vacs. And I do believe I get these from Anderson Pens, but I'll include some links, but feel free to look around. Independence probably has them, probably several places. So you could just go straight to packing and do the solvent part that we'll get to in a bit, but just like with the other ones, I like to have that extra little bit of security in the packing unit. So I use my rubber cement. And this little tool, I've shown it before, is a little pen tooling tool that I got from Pen Tooling, and it just is something that threads onto the female end of, or the male end of the Sheaffer rods, so you can push and pull them through things. So what I do is I'll take it, put it through the bottom. I will get that little rubber gasket, put that on the tip, take my rubber cement, and really just get a little bit of a coating on it. It's thick enough, it's going to coat. I just kind of run it under, and I realize this is not on the camera, but all I did was just let it kind of drip down, and I ran a little washer through the goo, through the slime, just to give it a good coating. And am I zoomed out? Yeah, so this is the part that's going to get a little bit messy. And so I use this tool to pull it straight back through the chamber and let it sit down here in the packing unit, and I just use the friction, the tightness, and let it really pull down and let it sit down there. And I might actually just kind of leave this in for a second because, you know, I probably touched the side. I'm going to come back with, and that's on the other side, so I'll explain this and we'll take a cut because this will have to dry, but I'll come take a Q-tip and really just clean out the inside. Another good thing about working with rubber cement, it takes a day or two to cure, so this is going to be easy to clean up. I'm not going to have any residue in the barrel, and while that's cleaned, this is sitting and setting, and when I come back in 24 or 48 hours, it's cured. It's helped it secure itself to the bottom and gives me a little bit of extra security for these replaced vac seals. So that's what I'll do now. I'll take my break. I'm not going to just show you me doing that, but I will go get a Q-tip. I will clean this out, and when that's cleaned out, I'll finally pull this little rod out because it's aligned with the hole, and I'm just going to set it up right in something and let it sit for about 24 to 48 hours, and then we'll come back and do the next part with this polystyrene washer. So I will see you in a day or two. Okay, so everything has been curing, or everything but this guy has been curing, so it should be, that little washer should be well seated, and I think we just have to do the next part, which is take that little white piece, which I was kind of doing a dry run just to make sure I could do things over the camera, and I went ahead and slipped it in, and it's kind of a snug fit, so I don't want to try to mess everything up by digging it back out, so that white thing, getting it down in there. So again, it's decently well sized. I will say the polystyrene washer by the thing is what I'm saying. That if you slip it down in there, and I just took another little tool, you could use a long toothpick, a cut off Q-tip, anything, and just kind of tap it down, kind of seat it on top of that rubber washer. And as you see, the holes do line themselves up, and actually it's a nice little fit. It has enough friction that it's not going to fall out. At least in this guy it hasn't, so that's a nice thing. Because what I'm going to do is I'll take, if you can see it, acetone, and pop the top. And what I have is a little pipette. I believe I got this maybe from Independence or Anderson Pens. I can't remember which I got, but you can get these online pretty much anywhere. And this one's nice, I think, because it has a little bit of a super small taper at the end. So I've used these several times for this project and it works really well. Another thing I was thinking, just to give people options, because what we're really going to be doing is slipping it down through the tube just to kind of be able to get acetone directly on that little polystyrene washer without really getting it anywhere else so we don't damage the plastic. But I was trying to think what else might be slim, small, and be able to deliver some acetone. Well, maybe like a diabetes syringe, something that's really thin, really small needle, and maybe you can use it with or without the needle, but that might be an option if people have those or can get those, you know, at the drugstore possibly, and to be able to just do what we're about to do. So think about that, and maybe I will too, just to see if that is a little more long-term solution, because these do wear out. But we'll see. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to take a little bit of acetone in here. So I sucked up a little bit, but I didn't put much in there because I don't want to be splashing a ton up in here. I don't want it splashing, soaking, doing more than what I want it to do. And the other thing is, maybe I'll show you on this. Let me get one more paper towel just so I can do it and not have it in my work area. But it's actually, it's very, I mean, it's volatile, it's acetone, and the viscosity is very low, so even if you tip it, it'll start to leak out. So I don't want to overfill it and just let things leak out based on weight and its own little thinness. So I'm only going to try to fill this with kind of what I think I need, and I can always do a little bit more. So I've dipped it in. I'm going to go ahead and wipe off any extra acetone because I don't want to touch it to anything as we snake it down. So I probably have, you know, about that much, and that may be a lot, but I'm going to use this. Actually, it looks like my tip is splayed, so it looks like I will be, you know what, we're going to make something happen here. This might not be the best thing, but as long as I can still suck up and drop out. So I guess this guy is going to be no more. So let's just turn this upside down. Let that get in there. And I'm just going to turn it over and let my acetone just kind of drip on to my polystyrene washer, just enough to kind of get some drops around it. So there we go. Pull that back out. I'm going to give it a few taps just to let any of that acetone that's liquid, that wasn't like being absorbed or active, come right back out the bottom, so I don't have extra acetone lying in there. This might be why a good syringe might be a better option. Let me check this guy, because I'm not sure that you'll be able to see it, because nothing's quite happening yet. I might do another drop just to make sure, but I think I see. I'm going to roll it around for any little acetone just to kind of make its way to the edges. But what I think I'm seeing, probably if you can zoom in on your computers, but I can't, is the edges are looking a little bit like wrinkly, or they're starting to get a little bit less crisp. So that's the acetone working with the edge and starting to fuse it with the edge of this little barrel. And so that's the idea, and that's why if you could have a better pipette, unfortunately my tip was not good. I don't think I have another one. I think I've finally gone through them. Having that other type of syringe, you could just really focus it right there along the edge, and that would be the ideal. So I'm going to watch this guy, see what he does, and I may come back definitely off the camera and add a little bit more if I think I really didn't get the fill, and I might just do that just to be safe, just because I didn't have the nice tip of my pipette like I wanted. So that's the process, and again, this has to cure, and I give it a good 2 days. I want that to hold, and you could probably say up to 2, 3, 4 days to really let this thing set up. But I think I've had decent luck with 2 days, and so I guess I will see you in 2 days, and we'll finish up the assembly and check our work on this guy. But I probably will add a few more drops, just to be a little bit more careful and just a little more sure that this will take. But we'll see you in a couple days, and we'll see how it writes. Alright, welcome back. It's been 2 days, I think, about pretty much 2 days, spot on, and I think everything turned out well. I'll go ahead and let you see down in there. So after the camera ended, I did go through and put another, oops, hit the camera, another drop or two just around the edges. And I don't know if you can see, or even if I believe that I see it, but if you look around the edge, to me, I mean, that's where the seal happens, the edge of that washer with the inner diameter of this barrel here. I think it looks like to me like some of that gap and spacing is gone. It looks a lot more adherent, so that's what I'm going by visually. And maybe if we go back in the video and try to see a little bit before and after, maybe we can trick ourselves into seeing a little bit more space, but I don't know, since it was a pretty good like tight friction fit in there. So that's what I'm looking for, and I've used my mouth against it to kind of like blow through it and kind of see if I can make a suction to see if there's anything going on, but maybe not a good test. But I played around with it, so after 2 days I think we can probably safely go ahead and do the next bit. So I want to go ahead and finish up so I can get a video up and kind of keep my timeline going. But what else can I say? So I think we're ready for reassembly. Everything's been polished, like I said, so I have everything kind of laid out and ready, and yeah, everything's there. And let me just go ahead, I think I have everything assembled. So for the next part, of course, I'm going to use my grease. I'm going to use my handy little Sheaffer rod threading tool. But of course, you don't need this. You could, of course, do your best to press it through. And you can see the other video where I kind of awkwardly did it to show you that. And what else do I have? Oh, we almost have one last thing. We have the little, not washer, but the little plastic plunger thing to do. And these, again, I think probably Anderson pens or Independence. And these are the 8 or 9 millimeter. I measured them last time, but these are the smaller of the two sizes you can get. So, actually that one looks oddly big. Is that really it? Well, actually it looks like a big one in with the small ones. Let me grab another one. And I think the big ones were 11 or 12 millimeters. I can throw up I have my ruler next to me, so let me just see if that makes sense. And yeah, for some odd reason, I did have a big one in with these small ones, so you can definitely tell the difference visually. And let me just see what the small one is. It looks to be about 9 millimeters-ish. Oh, I'm sorry, not millimeters. I should go to the millimeter side, or 5, 6, 7, yeah, right about 8 millimeters on this guy. So yeah, and the big one, since I have one floating around, is actually this one looks more like 9, so maybe the difference was not as much as I recall, but they are different. So smaller size for the standards. And we'll take this, we'll put him on, and we'll take just a touch of shellac and touch the tip of this threaded bit with a nut. Now, oh, that's what it's called, the nut. I think I was blanking on it earlier in the video, but this is the conical nut that goes on the tip. So yeah, don't drop it. I can see, there we go. Put that on, finger tight, and we'll let the shellac really just kind of keep it in place. And as long as that is unable to move, I think we're in a good spot. So I'll take this bottom little doohickey off. Okay, put it there. And so now we have all of our siliconing to do. So I'm going to take a touch and put it here at the kind of the edge and bottom of the seal. Generous amount. I'm going to take another little bit. I'm just going to do it down here at the bottom of this guy, because that'll be spread as it goes through the packing unit. So be fairly generous with that. And since I'll be using my threading tool, I'm going to go ahead and put a little bit at the tip here, so that'll kind of pre-lubricate, since I'll be putting this in through the bottom. Wipe off the finger. And let's see, so here's where we see what we did. Okay, so gently thread right up through there. So far holding. And I will, for this tool at least, thread the male end of the plunger into the female end of this pulling tool. Pull it down. I'm going to help the top get centered in. There we go. And pull straight back. There we go. And that is that. And we can... There we go, it's good. It's trying to force air out, so we know we have a very good seal. And so far, just doing this, we even get a little bit of a pop. Yeah, this one made a really nice seal. Yeah, so that's well worked in there. And just doing this, everything looks to be in place. So I'm just gonna wipe a few things off since I've had grease on my hands. And the rest is actually fairly straightforward. I'm going to go ahead and put my little locking collar on with the flathead side sticking out so I can grab it. Oh, I'm sorry, sticking out as in up towards the nib of the pen. And I'm going to put, there it is, the little knob that allows the rod to turn freely within the actual gripping knob, I'll call it that. And again, I don't want this to be too hard. This is actually fairly tight, so I'm not going to worry about shellac, but you could, no big deal. And if that threads all the way up, that looks like it's pretty well in there, but if I have any fitting issues, I'll come back with some heat and a gripping pad and really work it down. And just get that guy started. Actually, maybe that is a decent amount. Yeah, I might actually just go ahead and use my heat to kind of soften that up and get that all the way on. Let me go ahead and take a break and do that, and we'll just finish up. There we go. So it took 2 seconds, a little bit of heat, and I had my gripping pad so that I could grab the bar and this little piece, and it got itself seated all the way down on that threaded section. So let's pull up our collar, and we'll get this started into the base. And I'll show you what I just did. So sometimes threading these things, you're worried about, did I thread or cross thread anything? So if you get it seated and you go a slight backwards twist, a lot of things will just set themselves into place. Yeah, I think I picked this little trick up, which it seems obvious, from SB Stephen Brown. It's like, oh, that makes total sense. So now I pretty much always do that just to make sure that I'm not cross-threading. And he picked it up from somebody else. He tried to remember, but always trying to give credit, I guess, where credit's due. And again, I'm not going to do shellac because these things seat pretty well. They're pretty tight, pretty deep into this thing. So again, for purposes of getting back into them in the future, if need be, I'm choosing selectively to not use shellac at certain points. And so this is just a matter of slowly twisting it down, good pressure, which you might, as you get deeper, use more and more pressure to move this thing. Yeah. There we go. And I don't remember how deep it looked, but we'll go till we think we're done, and then we'll dry fit it and just see if we need to go more. It feels like it's still turning. Yeah, surprisingly deep. I might be reaching the end. That or my fingers are just slipping. Oh, that feels... oh gosh, damn it. I got ahead of myself. Yeah, you're probably watching me do this and go, no, that's not it. I got so excited about this part, I didn't actually put the barrel on. So the barrel should go on first. And let's see. Oh, and now it's down and deep and hard to get out, so that's why I don't think I need shellac on these. Yeah. And I actually thought I was trying to be fairly organized today. I had all the tools. I don't think I have to get up or dig in a drawer, so I was actually like, yeah, I'm doing well. And then I go and do something stupid like this. But no biggie. We'll get it out. There you go. Could I grip it? Yeah. Arg. All that. Ooh. And that is on there again. Well, shucks. Okay. Another break so I can get this off with heat, and I'll come back, but I'll just slip the barrel on, and I'll go ahead and do all this stuff so you don't have to see me do it again. But, you know, barrel slips on, this little collar goes on, this locks it in place, and I'm going to seat this on it. So I'm going to undo and redo, but not hold you on the camera to do it. So again, sorry for the cut. I'll see you in a few minutes. Okay, so a little bit different. So I went ahead and put the nib on, but like I said before, all I really did was take the knob back off, barrel on, easy peasy. And of course, you've got to put that little cap catch, I think that's what it's called, on as you put the barrel on, so that it kind of locks in place. And so I thought, since this particular nib had a lot of like residue, that glue, rather than come on, tell you what I'm about to do, click back off and do it, I went ahead and just was heating this section and getting everything, and like kind of starting the threading going. And then as I met resistance, which is pretty fast, I started applying heat here to kind of get this expanded and soften any remaining residue of that glue on here. And it went pretty well up until I got to the last like quarter turn, half turn, something like that, and it just basically froze up on me. So what I wound up doing is using heat, taking it back off, and I used my dental pick just to kind of go through the threads of the nib unit, just to kind of pick out any little bit of extra stuff that's binding it up. And I did that for a few passes. I went back to put this back in, and I even this time put a touch of silicone grease at the very bottom so it'll thread itself on up. And even with that, it still took several heating tries to get this back on, but once it finally softened, it finally got all the way on. So if you're not, how do I say it, if that nib unit has a lot of gunk and stuff, you may have to scrape out the inside of this section. You may have to do a little bit of scraping on the unit itself. Just be aware, and I think heat for these is always going to be a good idea, because you never know what you're dealing with. And once you start to feel resistance, don't force it. I mean, you could break anything in here. You could break the neck, you could break the collar. So just use heat, and then if you need to, do a little bit of triage. And once I put the grease on the bottom, like, it really threaded easily up until we got to that last half turn, and that's when I was like, well, let me just really heat this. And this took several like heats and twists, and I was really just standing there with it over the heat, and every 20-30 seconds going for another turn. But it finally went, and it made a nice tight seal. But that's why we now have a completed pen. And is there anything else that I can say about putting it back together? I don't think so. I mean, I think everything came off well, despite, you know, just a lot of adhesive up here. But everything else I think turned out really well. And I will say that I know I had intended to see if I could get some of these little dimples out, but there is a cap lining in here, and I can't get you to see it, I don't think, but the cap lining really goes up until about here, I figured out. So I couldn't even get to the spring clip if I wanted to. And this kind of thing is a little bit outside of what I know how to do just yet. I don't know if there's a tool, a technique, or if that's really sealed off from you for good. I don't know. But if anybody has any resources about uncap-lining a cap in Sheaffers and models such as this, please feel free to share, because it would be nice to kind of get to the point where maybe I can start to work on little bits of dents and get them out. But I think we're as far as we can go with this pen. So we'll take another break, and I'll get everything set up. We'll do a writing sample, and I'll just say a few things about it just to remind you about the Sheaffer Vac-Fills and these Triumph lines with the nice conical nibs, just to kind of get you back in the time frame. But not a lot of details since we've covered it before, but we'll do a little writing sample. We'll show you how this seal does, and we'll see how much we can get it to fill, because I think we can do a stroke with this undone, and we could do a stroke, and then I guess we'll have to see, because it's going to lose a little bit of vacuum and we'll lose some ink, but we'll see how much we can see it fill. And if we can't see it in the chamber, we'll at least evacuate it and you'll get to see it. But just to point out also that we definitely got that nut threaded deeply down enough, because this is a nice flush seal. So again, if you're winding up with like a weird kind of overlap, things don't feel quite right, maybe a little bit of a gap, work on getting that nut just a little bit deeper into this knob. So boom, see you in a few minutes. We'll do the writing sample and we'll figure out what we're going to do for the next video. Okay, and here we are at the end. I have everything all wiped down, I have my polish on it, and it looks pretty good. So let's just kind of give this a little twirl, a little rotation, and I'm going to start with the cap. A couple little dents up there. Like I said, I'm not going to be able to get those out, but I mean, of everything, that's fairly minimal. And we have the nice springy clip. No dot up here yet. We have this nice three-lined, is it 3 or 4? 1, 2, 3, yeah, 3. Long, medium, short, just kind of repeating lined pattern. And there is the very bottom, very small, and I'll squint. I want to say it says something about 1/10 gold filled and made in USA. Doesn't have Sheaffer written anywhere just yet. So the cap free of anything Sheaffer. And then we can undo it. We can see our nice Triumph nib. Give that a little twirl for the glare. And maybe I can zoom in just a touch and not lose too much light. But it looks pretty good. Looks like it's going to be a fine point. And we don't get any anything, no medium, fine, broad, nothing on the bottom to designate, but it looks fine, and just feeling it, that feels pretty sharp. We have the feed with all the little fins intact. And there we go, two-toned. We have a nice ink view, and in between you can see what's the I don't know what to call it, but the tail end of the feed sticking out in there, so we can see that, and that'll allow us to see our ink level eventually. We have our cap catch, and that's secured on there with a little bit of friction from the barrel, a little pressure from the barrel, and the little notched section on this whole section inner tube kind of component. We have the barrel, and I'll see if I can find the imprint. And it looks like there. So I don't see a model number this time. There's no 1000, 1500, anything like that. But what we really get is the W.A. Sheaffer, Fort Madison, Iowa, made in USA, or Iowa, USA, made in USA. Yeah. So no designation on this one. And of course we come down here to the knurled kind of gripping knob, and let me take a look. I don't think I saw anything major on it. There's probably a small kind of dent here or there, but now I'm not really finding it, so I may have to look more closely. But I actually think this one's in pretty good condition. Oops, I lost you somewhere in there. And then down at the bottom there we have our Sheaffer white dot. So let's kind of take this out. Tight. Pull it out. And of course we have our nice inner bear. So super clear, nice and yellow, and you can really just kind of see that conical nut peeking out. So overall, this one cleaned up really well. I'm really happy with this one. And you know, I'm not going to go too much into the history just because we did it on the last one, so please see the other video for a little more detail. And just to keep this one shorter than typical, this, I think, just by the quick research that I did, this is probably the Sheaffer Crest with the metal cap, gold filled. I think that pretty much identifies you as a crest. And this dot probably will help, being at the bottom, probably helps you put it somewhere in the dating line, but I wasn't getting too deep into it just yet. I was trying to rush through just to get this finished and something out on time by mid-month. So I do apologize for a little bit of lack of information. But let's go ahead and take ink, same one I used last time, just because it's a nice deep fill right now. Let's see if I have, there we go, I do have one handy. Paper towel, and we're going to fill this guy. So we'll undo the knob, that guy's nice and tight. Pull all the way out. I push it down, it wants to come back out, so I know we have a good vacuum in there. It's definitely pushing air out. We're going to stick it in, fully submerge it, and one stroke, push it down. Did you get the bubbles? I think I heard the bubbles. So we'll let that fill, and while we do, we'll just turn the knob nice and tight, and that'll be it. So we'll write a little bit before I undo it to see if we can determine how much was in that barrel. And we can either see if we can see it by undoing it, or maybe just pushing it out and seeing how many drops come out. But here we go. Let's cap that. And let's write the sentence, and I'll just kind of talk about how this particular pen feels. So, oh, picks up right away. Heck. Pretty good. Writes nice and easily. That definitely is a fine line. I'll put some pressure down, and I don't really get any variation. Zoom in maybe a little bit so you can see it in the meantime. And what else? Let's take a look. Even though there's a fine line, this feels decently wet. I was able to streak that out. So this actually feels pretty wet. And I'll say right now, I probably should take this under the tines or under the loop a little bit. I mean, it is fine, and it feels a little bit scratchy right now. And I don't know if I actually do. I do have the loop right by me, so let me just take a peek, and I'll see if I can confirm. Yeah, it's just a wee bit off. I'm going to see if I can do anything about that. Just this side tine Let's see if I can push it up just a little bit and get it to hold. So I'm going to get some inky fingers. There we go, super inky. So the feed definitely gives you ink, it definitely wicks. Oh, okay, that's good. That actually feels less scratchy. Probably a few more little plays with this and then maybe something on the micro mesh, but yeah, that little thing just helped you. Maybe if you can hear the sound. Sounds a little bit better, feels a little bit better. So slightly out of alignment, which is, you know, I mean, I don't see these things too scratchy or too out of alignment often, but if they are, they're just ever so slight, and it's easy to kind of get them back into writing condition. So I wicked up a bunch of ink on this with my fingers, so there we go. Keep it from getting too messy. What else can I say about it? Is it going to be a reverse writer? Actually, yeah, that actually does not feel too bad at all, and that's actually a pretty decent line. Maybe we can see how juicy, maybe you can, but the feed is actually really well soaked, and I wonder if my fingers helped pull a bunch out. But right now this is actually a really wet writer, but you know, I also did dip it, so maybe that's what's giving it to it. But yeah, this reverse writing is actually pretty good. Yeah, I think you could do it, although I don't think it gives you much in the way of a step down in size. Maybe very, very slightly. You could maybe do a little bit of reverse writing, but I don't think you'd need to with this particular pen. In terms of how it feels, I mean, this one is, zoom back out, there we go. This one is reaching my entire hand. It's sitting in the crook. And if I throw the ruler down, we'll get about just shy of 4.5 inches to the very tip of the nib. So just shy. And if you want to go do the other numbers, let's go ahead and do a capped. Let's get, I'm going to say about right at 5 basically, maybe just a touch over 5. And you don't have to post it if you're a fairly average sized hand. It'll sit there. Maybe if you have a larger hand size, you might have to do the posting, and it posts well, and that gets you up to about 5 3/4 just about, so that's actually really nice. And if I were to write with it capped, I know it's a metal pen, a metal cap, I don't think it adds too much. I mean, it's not really making it back heavy at all. I feel a little bit, but it's not really shifting my balance. I'm not really trying to push the nib down anymore, so definitely a postable writer, post securely, so I think you have the option and the flexibility. And what else? We have that classic kind of textured section, which right now, not feeling bad on me at all. I'm not going to slide down this, I don't think, and I think this is a decently nice sized section that I'm not really going to have to worry about riding up or pulling back. If I did, I have the cap catch, which this is noticeable. So I don't know that I'd want to hold this very far back at all, because that's actually a little bit annoying. And then we have the step up from the seam of the barrel, or the little step in the barrel to where it would make a seam with the cap to otherwise make the outline of the pen smooth. I mean, yeah, you can feel that, but I mean, if you're back here, you're probably riding up on this cap catch, which to me is a little more annoying. So I would definitely stay in this little area. And so, yeah, so far I like this one. I'm going to work on the nib a little bit just to fine tune it, because I mean, it was a little bit scratchy, and right now still pretty darn good. So barely, it's going to maybe just take a little, barely of a little adjustment, or maybe just smoothing the tines, but this is actually really nice. And again, this is another solid Sheaffer writer. And now that we've replaced the packing unit, replaced the seal, I think this is going to last for probably another 50 to 80 years at the very least. And I suppose if you were to have to redo this with the Nishimura method, which this is, you just re-drill it out and do the exact same thing. So this pen is going to be able to last a long time with just the right replacement parts and just kind of doing the same process over and over again. So very cool way of doing this. maybe a little bit less froth than doing the old way, kind of knocking out that packing unit, because maybe that packing unit, if you knock it out, or at least in the version 1 of these, this would be version 2, that might take its toll, and with the plastic being brittle over time, that one might be a limitation. So maybe that's a positive for these second generations with the inner chamber. So maybe this is just going to be forever repairable, or at least to the point where you solvent weld to the plastic. That might be the give out point. So maybe, though, it could probably tolerate another 1 or 2, but don't know. And so I'll leave it with that, and I don't know which one I'll do next. I have a couple things I was kicking around. I mean, I'll probably take a break and save the next method, got a little inky drop, for the vac fills for another time, to give myself also a little bit of less monotony, like I said before. Yeah, I really dripped some ink. It was really drippy from that feed, but it wasn't continuing to drip, so I don't think it was a leakiness. I just think it was so full from being dipped. What else? I think I might do, I was toying around with the PFM. That's always a classic, just kind of a different play on the snorkel filler. Or maybe I'll do a surprise option. And of course, I'm still working on one I promised before, still trying to work on its packing unit, the broken Eversharp. But I don't know, maybe I'll do a wild card. But anyway, in trying to keep this one short, I don't want to ramble. I'm going to get better at this. But thanks for sticking around, checking out this nice Sheaffer Crest, and I hope you've gotten a good look into how to repair the second generation of these vac fillers. And the other major video, if you need something other than mine, I think David Nishimura himself, you'll see one on YouTube that pops up, and it's like a bunch of chopped together clips, but that's basically where I learned this technique. He may offer some different insights and how to talk about it differently. So maybe check that out, and I'll include a link so you see where I got this from. But I'll say goodbye for now, and we'll see you hopefully in another couple weeks. After I show you how much ink is in this, I keep forgetting I'm trying to rush now, so I'm forgetting the little things. But let's see. So I'm gonna hold this guy upright. I'm gonna undo my vacuum knob, I guess we'll call it that. Pull it back, nice and slow. And I'm gonna undo my barrel. So let's see what we've got. Okay, so here's what we have so far. It's just black, we can't really tell. And if I hold it upside down, I can see some bubbles. Actually, let me do this. Since I use some, let me do one more thing. I'm gonna try to refill it to make sure it's as much as it can be, and then turn it back upside down. Got the bubbles again. Give it, 5-10 seconds to fill. And this time I'm going to keep it upright and just do what I did again. I'm going to pull back my rod, undo the barrel, and let's see what that shows us. And I wonder, so here it is. Let's get some white background behind here. And wonder if I can just tilt one of my lights and use that. No, maybe not. Ooh, there's my phone. Let me see if I can use the light on my phone. There we go. And if I could try to shine through here, it looks pretty opaque all the way down. So let's turn it upside down. And this is the ring, the cap catch. It's going to fall back to its nice position. So let's see if I can show you here. Do we have a level? Where are you? Oh, I think I saw one. Come on. If I can coordinate my movements. Right about there. I think, is that me showing it? Arg. I think so, yeah. I think you can start to see distinct dark, dark, dark. And then the light shows up right about there. So put my pinky. And so, yeah, about that much of that inner barrel. So probably a little more than half of that gets filled up. So that's a pretty good fill. Now let's do the other part and just see how much we can express. And let's see, get the background right, and push. Pretty good. I hope you caught that. I was looking down rather than at the camera, so hopefully you saw that. I think you did. I think I was pretty steady that time. But that's a pretty good ink capacity. That one's not that bad. Maybe I should find a syringe or something to shoot that into at some point, but get the 1 mil, 2 mil, see how many that is. But now that we finished that, thank you again, and we will see you next 2 weeks.